Let me tell y'all something. I love this woman.
Yes.
I have always loved her before y'all met her as the creator,
Boy, give me
executive
more.
producer,
Yes, Carlos King.
star, Queen Bee. Before Karen was the grand dame, honey, there was Mariah Huq,
I'm
honey.
here for it. Yes. Come
Yes.
on, Carlos.
Married
What?
to medicine, married to Mariah, married to the money, and married to the mob. Come on, Mariah
Yes.
Huq.
Come through, honey. I like the way you tip a girl in, Carlos. You tipped her in, honey. You stumped her in. I'm here for it. Thank you, my fellow Libra.
Exact. My Libra
Yep.
sis.
Yes,
Mariah,
we are.
you know, me and you together, we're
I
fools.
know you see and be like, you know what, that's something I would do. I know you watch and be like, ooh, that's so me. That is me all day. Ooh, I am guilty as charged. You know how we do. We can't bite our tongues. You know how we are.
You're not even married to medicine, my love.
Was it a fact or was it fiction? Was it fact or was it fiction is the question I have for you. I mean, you
I'm
tell
not
me.
going to hop on my cherry and throw
Yup.
tomatoes.
Mm-mm. But you know what? A bitch did this shit. I threw a few I threw a few tomatoes and was fine with the tomato bisque. Okay,
You
I
need
was
to
okay
pressure
with it.
wash this.
You know what? You know
I'm
the funny
done.
part about that.
What?
I Aiden sent me a picture where I was on vacation. And he sent me a picture and he was like on the backyard or something. I said, if you don't pressure wash that, I can never post this picture. So listen, I say those things, but I say them for myself or whoever else. You know, it wasn't just for TV at all. At all.
No, listen. The beauty of this podcast is the
Mhm.
fact that, yes, I get to talk to my friends like Mariah or talk to people who I'm a fan of that I don't, you know personally, but it's also to give people their flowers and to give them an opportunity to have a platform because one thing I know is it's not a lot of platforms for women of color, people of color in general, black women, black men, to be able to talk about their experience on reality television. Mariah, you are a legend, and I don't use that word loosely. The girls know I'll cuss a bitch out if they use the word
True.
icon and legend um, in not the right, way. You are an icon. You're a legend. Your fans
Oh,
tweet me almost every day. Can you
oh my
create a show for
God.
Mariah? Can she be on Love and Marriage Atlanta? Do something for my girl. So let the girls
Love
know,
that.
Mariah, how are you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm doing really, really well. First of all, let me say thank you. And I don't take it lightly. I'm very humbled. While I am humbled by it, I haven't created, to me, I haven't made the type of history that I know that I can do and that I know you are already doing. So plan on being more of a legend. I really do. This is just the beginning. So I just took a sabbatical for a minute. I had to. I was dealing with so much, tying up loose ends with the show and everything. So now I've really been working on me and family. Like my kid, Lauren's graduating this year. I'm opening up a new shared co-work space with a building I bought a few years ago. I have a media space coming over 6,000 square feet in downtown McDonough. I'm working on scripted. I started as a writer, and I'm getting back to that. And the thing about this business that I love, or just about in general, when you have talent, people can't take that away from you. And so I'm really getting to what I tried to do initially, which was tell a story I felt like was my story. And so I feel like now I'm kind of getting back to that. So I've been back writing and just really, I mean, getting the coin. I mean, she been getting to the coin. She may not be posting, but I think sometimes you have to go underwater. You really do. I appreciate the fan. I've had so much support. I've had support from every which way. So I'm truly grateful for that because that has kept me going.
Yeah,
It
no,
really has.
I'm with you with the lack of posting. One thing I learned from Tyler Perry
Yeah.
is he says sometimes God has to hide you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to be hidden so that you're able to cultivate the things that you
Yeah.
want to do, that God wants you to do, so that when you reemerge from isolation, that's when you're ready to take on everything for you. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about.
It is. I think, I mean, if Tyler says, we definitely have to listen. But at some point, it's the truth. I am here for social media, all of it. I love it. You make a lot of money off of it. But I mean, on it, you make a lot of money on it. I just felt like for me, you're right. I had to go underwater and do what God has for me to do. Every time I tried to go back to social media, to be honest, something happened, and it would be like, sit down, be still. So I knew He was doing some things in my life and working on something bigger and better. I needed to focus. And I'm a Libra. Look, I get caught off. I get off balance. I have to have tunnel vision, and the peripheral vision sometimes will throw me off. So I have to stay focused, especially when I'm talking about a coin. It's just
Yes.
different. It's different. And you got to do bigger, do better, and do it in a more explosive way. And I am definitely about doing that.
Yes. Well, listen, you
Yes,
are you are a
I am.
maverick, honey. You let me let the audience know that I met Mariah for the first time when I was producing the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And Carlos King wanted Mariah so badly to be an Atlanta housewife. And I don't know if the girls know this, Mariah, but we
Mhm.
taped scenes for Mariah to be a peach holder. And it was scenes with Mariah, her beautiful.
I done did like this with my peach. Ooh, the girls would have.
Yes,
I done
honey.
did like this with. I might have threw her up, juggled her, and made me old Bellini with my peach. It had been team too much. Everything worked the way it was supposed to. It had been team too much. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Oh
Carlos.
no, no, no! I'm gonna let the girls know. So I'm gonna let y'all
It had
know
been too
about
much.
about the
Ooh.
hustler that Mariah Huq is. So Carlos King working on Atlanta Housewives. I get a phone call. We're casting. We found this woman, Mariah. Can you shoot a few scenes with her? Sure. Shot a few scenes with Mariah with her beautiful sister Lake. And I called the executives and said, she's a no-brainer. Like, she needs to be on the show. And
Yeah.
tell me if I'm wrong, Mariah, but I believe the issue was Mariah saw the agreement. I'm gonna tell you what I was told because we all wanted you, but you didn't want us.
No, no, no. You know what? To be honest with you, that was not the case. You know what it was? I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. And I really did. My inspiration, let me be very clear, were people like you, Carlos, I mean, you and Princess and Nene, like what you guys had done was so amazing. So it wasn't that I didn't want you guys. It was that once I embarked on my journey to do my own, you know, I wanted to, you know what it is. I felt like, you know what, I'm already close. Let me just see this thing through, even though initially there would have been more money, more notoriety, a better reach, infiltration. But once I started on my journey and I set my own goals, I just felt like I needed to see Married to Medicine through.
Oh no,
Like
I'm not mad at
it was
it.
already a household. Well, sometimes I think back on that. Should I, would I, could I, like, what should
No,
I have done? But I
no.
felt like my steps were already ordered,
Yeah, and
but
let me let them know. So I'm of course laughing when I say you didn't want us, and to me that's a big compliment
mm,
because as a black
I
person in
did.
this business, one thing I love,
Choices.
yes, you have choices, and there's freedom in choices. And one of my favorite moments from King Richard was when Venus Williams was offered $2 million if she signed with
Mm,
Nike before she played, and Venus knew her worth. And she said, I'll wait this out because I want to be able to
me
showcase my
too.
skills because I know I can get more of a bag. So
Yeah.
Mariah turned down being on the show, guys, because she created her own show called Married to Medicine that she was pitching. So Mariah always believed in herself, believed in
Yeah.
ownership, Real Housewives of Atlanta, especially at that time, because this was during season 4. Mariah, am I lying? It was the biggest show in Atlanta in the
It was.
world.
It was.
But Mariah knew, as a black woman, as a content creator, let me see this through something I created my way. So let the girls know about that.
You know what? It was really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, because when people are offering you a bag, and what they do is they come back with more money and more money and more money.
We wanted you,
But
sis.
you know what? And the money is so good. But you're right. You said the key words, and I had the type of parents that told me to know your worth. So it started way beyond TV. I knew who I was before I went to TV. I knew what I wanted to do. It was really hard though, because delayed gratification is always tough. Saying, you know what, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to put in the work now. I'm not going to see a dime of it, because they were offering me much more than I received initially as a creator, executive producer, and star, or one of these stars of Married to Medicine. I actually would have made more just initially being on Real Housewives of Atlanta. And it's really, really important for people to know, because you do have to give up something. It's a lot of sacrifices you make. But I did it because it wasn't just about securing the bag. It was about securing the legacy. And I have 2 amazing children. Now they're like, one is a graduating senior headed to college, the other is a 10th grade. And for me, it was about creating a legacy and something that they can own and something they can have that we can pass down. So even though I knew that Real Housewives of Atlanta would have been amazing for me, my career would have gave me a reach beyond, I knew that creating my own was a step in the direction that God wanted me to go. So it was hard. And I pitched, they told me no. Initially, when I pitched the show.
Yeah, so let us know the story, because a lot of my listeners are reality TV fans. Some are producers, and some are people who want to get in the business because they have content. Explain to us how you started from creating the show to pitch it to it being on the air. Give us that quick recap.
So they initially came to me for Housewives of Atlanta season 2. The season they was casting Cynthia initially.
Oh, that's season 3 then.
Oh, the season 3.
Yes, you're right. It was season 3. Yeah, you're right.
Season 3. Yeah. So they initially, and Aiden was like giving me pushback, which I was shocked. He was like, how you, and because, this is still unscripted TV. It was a little different. And initially, different careers kind of turned their nose down at unscripted. I'm just keeping it real. And it wasn't in Atlanta. It was kind of still new in Atlanta. So to make a long story short, he was like, you know what? Once you get back to what you love doing, I know you love TV, but this isn't right for us. I'm like, this is perfect for us. And then he was like, well, just tell the story that you've been telling, which is the truth. It was like living, working, and playing with the doctors and everything. So I started doing I did my own treatment. I was pitching. I had been pitching before then, once I seen the show, but I made it better once I saw Housewives and saw it evolve, because you see the evolution of unscripted TV, like as it goes by. So I just kept pitching. They told me no. They told me they would initially, when I went to Bravo, they said they would never do, no, when I went to the production company, they said Bravo would never do a show that competes with one of the top shows on their network, which is Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I said, well, they have a lot of shows that are competing with it. But what I wanted them to say is what they end up saying. They would never do a black show to compete. They already had a top black show. And that's the truth, out of Atlanta. That's the way they looked at it. And so I just pretty much said, okay, well, if they don't do it, somebody else will. It got better and better. I kept pitching to True Entertainment, Lauren Escalin, everybody, and it got better and better. And they eventually saw either we're going to work with them or they're going to be a hellified, competitor. So I pitched for years. I did for like 3-4 years, came up with the treatment. I did several, I don't know how many video. I pitched it, made it better and better and better. Put my own money behind it. Just got with different production companies. I did. Got picked up by TLC. Lifetime loved it and made the choice to go with the production company I went with, because they had the relationship with Bravo. And I knew that Bravo could reach the households and the audience that I felt like we needed to reach. So once I started getting the offers from, Real Housewives of Atlanta, to be honest, that's when to me, the tone changed. It was almost kind of like, come here, do this instead of doing that. And so that's what kind of, the more money, I love y'all and I wanted to be on there, but I just felt like I needed to stick with my own thing.
No,
So
and
it was a
I think
long
that was
road.
smart. That was smart because one thing I always tell people is, and it's what you said earlier, delayed gratification. And I
It is.
think we live in a world right now where everybody wants it now. And one thing I always tell
Microwave
people,
society.
yes, people want the microwave success. They want to put it in the microwave, push a button, and have it come
Yeah.
out smoking in 15 seconds. Where one thing you and I can both attest to, because you and I have known each other for years. You saw me hustle as a little
did.
small time producer child on that show, and I started my company
You
and
never
made.
small time.
Well, you know what I mean, child.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes fake it till you make it, child.
You
Let the
do.
girls think you don't know what's going on, but you do.
I do it all
So,
the time. Right. That part.
that part, right?
And that part.
Play the
Yeah.
game a little bit, like we had to. Then they see you blow up. They're like, well, damn. Yeah, y'all was sleeping on me. But
Yeah.
one thing about you that I always appreciated is you stood your ground. You created a show and ended up on Bravo. What was it like when you realized Married to Medicine, a show you created, was a hit, but when we look at the credits, I don't see executive producer
Not the
under
first season.
Mariah's name.
You know what? It hit me a little different. The first season, is when I was only like an associate producer on there. It hit me real different because you have to think, with my story, the whole reason why, my whole purpose was to see my name and to create a legacy, and to see the credits meant everything to me. They really, truly did. Because it's like a man loving you in the dark, but he don't want to bring you out in public. Like, I had done everything. I had created the show, cast every one of the people on there that you saw first. And so for me, I knew how hard I had worked. And to see, so it was really tough. It was really tough. And that's when I was like, hold up, wait a minute. And then took a step back, had to regroup and figure out the best way of approaching it without burning bridges and taken away from what I had worked to build. Because I think sometimes people do things to evoke emotion so that you cross yourself out. So I took a step back. It was really hard, though. When I saw all the work I had put into it, everything, and initially didn't see my name, because that meant everything to me. And I think sometimes people they minimize it. And it comes so hard as a minority. Nobody gives you anything.
Mm-mm.
So for me, it was just a whole different level of disrespect, honestly, because I felt like I had worked hard. And people love to say, well, you didn't negotiate this. No, it don't work like this. Is a different type of industry, and people the corporations kind of bully their way and do whatever they want to do. So I feel like I had done everything right, to be honest with you. We've always crossed our T's and dotted our I's, had great legal team. So I was really, it was a lot. It was a lot nonetheless. But the one thing I tell you I did right was being on the show, because initially I wasn't going to be on the show. The first time I shot the show, the first time I shot Married to Medicine, Doctor's Wives Club, I wasn't on it. And everybody said, well, you're a doctor's wife. Why wouldn't you be on it? But see, I thought I would be biased, so I wasn't on it.
No, and I can't imagine that show without
I
you.
wasn't.
And you are and I don't use this word lightly either. You are a star. You're
You know what? When people say, somebody had told me you had said that about me, I think it was James Knox. He said, and I said, Carlos say that about everybody. Honey, Carlos, he loved big personalities. He said, no, Mariah. I promise you, he's sincere when he says it about you. I said, I love him. So he said, no. Carlos is like you. He don't play the radio.
I don't listen.
He did.
One thing you're right about,
He
I
did.
do love everybody. However,
That's what I said.
.org, I don't call everyone a star because not everyone is one. I love Married to Medicine. Not everybody on that show is a star. You are a star.
Thank you. But
Like,
you know what? Doesn't that make us, me and you, even more stars, that we can see somebody's star power or lack thereof and still make it a hit show? Now catch
ooh,
that dirt.
ooh. Well, let's get
You
into it.
can bring it. You can bring that life out of people. You know what I mean?
No, I know you're a star and a producer, and how do you feel when people say that the show changed the moment you felt allegedly that Quad was becoming the star of the show and you underestimated her star power?
You know, I think that's probably one of the most insulting things you have to keep in mind. Quad was my best friend. Like I saw something in her when I'm not going to even go there, but I'll just say she wasn't living the life. She'll say it. And it wasn't about any of that. I saw something in her. And each one of those women has something different to me that I thought was valuable. If I don't have to have a big, it's too much sometimes. So I saw something in her and I wanted to share the stage with all of them, but especially her. That was the last thing that I ever, and still, like to this day, that's just not, I never had ill will. Envy, just not my, that's just not my spirit. I've never been jealous, or I was able to share my dream, because that's what it was, with each and every one of those women. I wanted us all to build something together. And I felt like we could together. So I think that is probably one of the most hurtful things, to be honest, because that was never it. They looked at us like that. They didn't think it was enough room for two stars, but I knew it was. And
When
I
you say
knew
they, you mean the production
producers,
company?
yeah, maybe the production company. Maybe
Okay.
that was their opinion and their narrative, but and they got in people's heads like that. But that was never the way I looked at Quad or any of those ladies. I never did. I didn't think we would take away from each other. I honestly thought it would change every season, because it does, depending on what you're going through. You know what I mean? Everybody can be is going to break out at some point and be a breakout star, or a breakout center of attention. You know what I mean? It's just something. But I just felt like it would be something that would evolve and change. So I never thought that I was going to be the star the whole time. I just didn't think that. That's why it's an ensemble cast. It really is. So
So when people
that was tough.
say that you treated the show like it was yours and that these women worked for you and that they were on your show, what do you say to that? 'Cause a lot of rumors were Mariah think it's her show. She
It
says it's
was
her
my
show.
show.
We work for her.
I
And
never treated them like that. You know what? I didn't feel that I'd done that. I felt like I always shared it. I think if I had to do it all over, I've learned a lot of things, but the one thing I did well was calling myself the Queen Bee. It was never about those ladies. Those were not my counterparts. And that's the thing that people don't get. The first season, like you said, my name was not in writing as creator or executive producer. So I was sending a message and people start asking the right questions. There's only so much you can say. It was never about the women that they worked for me, but this is my shit. This is, I mean, just keeping it real. Like you created something big, like, and I saw what was happening. Had I not said that, I would not have been on season 2 or season 3 on my
with,
own, on my own show. It
yes.
changed. The narrative changed once people realized, oh, hold on a minute, this
So
her
wait,
practice.
when
Hmm?
people, let me ask you two things. When
Hmm.
did you start getting your just due as the executive producer on the show in terms of the credit? What season was that?
Season season 2, I was co-EP, and then season 3, I was creator, executive producer, and on. And for the lifetime of the franchise, of my franchise, she's always executive producer on all the shows. So it's been a fight, but hey, you know, it's God is good. What God has for you is for you.
A
So
black woman
season
created a
3 was the
franchise.
co-executive. Season 3, I was only co-EP. I didn't get my created by credits until season 4.
Did that credit change let me ask you, did your executive producer credit change the dynamic that you have with the cast because they saw
No.
it?
You know what? I want to say it didn't, but it did, in the sense of it created more division. Like even though they knew from the beginning how hard I worked, Like I did casting calls. I think once it was acknowledged by the production company, the network, it was almost like they saw me as the enemy, like she's one of them. When we were the same. This was our story. This is my story, their story. I was telling. So yes, it changed, but not in the way I had thought. Like I had been, they knew the truth the whole time, but it was kind of almost like it created more separation, or I don't know. It was weird. So maybe it did change the dynamic, but it wasn't in the way. It wasn't like, what? It wasn't a respect. And I don't care about that because I needed it for me. It was something I needed. It had nothing to do with them. So I do think it changed it, but not in the way that I probably had hoped.
Did it change your relationship with the producers?
Yes, but I didn't see it then. Their intentions were always the same from day one. I just didn't know it. I didn't know it. And so, yes, it did. I think they always looked at me a certain way, but it's like what you say, you know what? They don't have to think you're smart, or they may not see you come. You may be the sleeper, but they knew then that me telling my story was going to be powerful. I mean, they probably didn't bank on it going the way it did, but it went in. I think what God has for you is for you. I stand by that. I really, truly do, and mean it. I'm a true testament of that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So yes, it did. It really, truly, and I hated that. I hated that.
Were you phased out of your own show?
Absolutely. I didn't see it, and it's like, but the reason why I'm not mad or bitter about it is because I still feel like I came out on top. God had my back the whole time, and I felt like it was, people don't get, I lasted 8 seasons. They was trying to do this shit since season 1. I just didn't. I mean, at the end of the season, like they pull you up to bring you down. I didn't realize that season 2, they didn't bank on me coming back.
They didn't?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not at all. Mm-mm. I don't know where they thought she was going to go hide under a rock, but they really didn't. No. Yeah, they didn't. And I learned that later on. Hindsight is always 20/20.
It makes me so sad because for a woman to create a show, cast the show, star on the show, and then to see how you were allegedly phased out of your own show, because we, the viewers, saw like, why Mariah doesn't have that many scenes this season, or why doesn't Mariah have any interviews? It was this weird thing that was going on, and then now we don't see you on the show at all. So were you fired from your own show?
No, my contract ran out. I had several. You got to think. It's multiple things for me. I had a producer contract and I had a cast contract. I focused so much on the producer side that the cast side I felt like would kind of work itself out. I'm gonna be honest. I did. I cared more about the ownership and the producer side of it, or whatever, because I felt like I felt like the audience would choose who they wanted on there. And I think that's why I lasted so long, is that people, they didn't bank on me having an audience and people to actually want to see me. So yes, I do feel like they somewhat, well, they did phase me out, or didn't want me there, or didn't renew my contract. But I think that it was for the best, because I think being on the show almost took away from me being I never thought that. I think as a woman, the minority woman, I should be able to wear multiple hats, but people put you in silos and want you to choose. I mean, you don't see I don't see it with the guy producers, but with the women, I feel like we have to choose. Which role do you want? And that's kind of how I felt with being a creator EP, and especially when it became a franchise. It was like, hold on a minute. People don't want you to have too much power, or influence, and I think that's what a lot of it was.
That makes me sad to hear because, listen, as a black man in this business, I'm all about representation, and I know firsthand how hard you work to get that show on the air. And what you don't know, and I never shared this with anybody, not even you, I remember being like, well, damn, bitch, you pitched me Married to Medicine. I remember when I first heard through our friend Jacinda,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That, yeah, Mariah sold a
Hmm.
show about doctor wives and wives of doctors. I was like, damn, something I would have done. Like, it was such a
I
genius
know.
idea. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, I would have loved to work on that show. People ask me all
I
the
would have
time,
loved
like
you
Carlos
to.
King, if you could produce any show in the world besides the ones you've done, what would it be? And I will always say the Braxtons and Married to Medicine, because those two are my favorite shows of all time that I did not produce. Married to
Oh,
Medicine
that's so sweet.
is so underrated. Still, do you always feel like that show was in the shadows of Atlanta Housewives?
Absolutely. It will always be the stepchild of Bravo. And I knew that. I saw that and I get it because is what kind of what they said. They don't never really wanted it to compete. And I think that honestly is no competition because Housewives of Atlanta just really came through. I mean, they came through like a wrecking ball and it's amazing. They opened up the doors so there could be a Married to Medicine. But
Amen.
absolutely, it will always be in the shadows on the network, on Bravo. I think so. But I think that Married to Medicine has rightfully, on its own, proven its place, that it deserves to be on TV, and that it can stand on its own. So I think that's the good part. But it will
Yeah.
always be in the shadows.
Yeah, and I remember talking to Dr.
Yeah,
Hemley. And you know I'm honest. And the one thing about me is I'm honest to all my friends
that's your
and
friend. Oh, that's what we doing now. That's your friend. I'm just joking. I'm being
you
petty.
know I love the girls. I
Listen.
love
Oh,
you.
that's what we do.
I
That's your friend.
love y'all. So I was talking to Dr.
Ooh,
Heavily one
now
day.
it's y'all, honey. Now it's y'all. You see, we
Ah!
get grouped in together now. Now it's
Don't
two
do
of us.
it,
It's y'all. Ooh,
Mariah.
yes, the shade of it all. Okay, come on. What did she say now?
Don't do it, Mariah. Now you know I stand for you. Don't do it. But
You
I
do. You
remember
do.
talking to
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Heavily once. She invited me on her YouTube show, right? This is maybe
Mm-hmm.
2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. Two
Mm-hmm.
years ago, during the pandemic, I said, and y'all can find the tape on YouTube, I told Dr. Heavily, Married to Medicine is a fantastic show because all of you guys work well together on that show. It's a true
Mm-hmm.
ensemble. And what I don't want y'all to do is to remove anybody from the show because it'll mess things up. And I said, I know there's some issues with Mariah because I hear things. I said, at the end of the day,
Makes for good
Mariah
TV.
is married to medicine. Quad is
Synonymous.
married to medicine. Dr. Hep, like I'm gonna give people their props. I said to her, whatever you do, if y'all remove Mariah from that show, it's not gonna be the same. And I'm gonna go on record saying this. It hasn't been the same to me. You're missed on that show. And that show
Well,
needs you.
well, that's because have a I think you have an honest eye. And I think at the end of the day, when you love something, you want to see it work and see it last. And you take your personal feelings out of it. Initially, you have to think first season, Heavenly was not cast on the show. I went to bat. I said, listen, we're putting her on. She has to be on season 2. Look, never did anything with me, like just never really was big on me. But I knew that she would be a wild card, and I knew she had something to bring to the show. And so you have to still stand your ground and say what's good at the end of the day, what's going to be good for the show. So it's good that you were able to see that. I felt like that. I felt like if it would have made sense for me to go off where they started trying to, I wasn't having fallouts at all. It just was nothing. Everybody have fallouts when you're in a group. It's an ensemble. It's a group of women. So I think that that's when things get scary, is when it's not for the good of the show, when you're no longer thinking about the show. And I felt like with me not being on there, I didn't want to be in a place that I wasn't wanted. I want to be where I'm loved and supported. I didn't want to be in a place where I'm tolerating. If it in my position caused that much conflict, then it probably wasn't a good fit anymore because it's not fun anymore. Like I like to be real fun, funny, have a good time, turn up. I don't want to always have to show up just knowing it's about to come against it. I don't want to always have to feel, like you finna go in and be defensive.
Because season
So yeah.
6 was the best
Yeah.
season
Oh, wait
of
a minute. Which
Married.
season? Season
Season
six.
6 was about obviously
Hmm.
Dr. Jackie's man stepping out, right? We saw the shots of him at the airport with somebody. It was the destruction of Greg and Quad.
I,
It
that was the season I hated the most.
really,
Hated it. I felt, you know why?
tell me.
Because the reason why I created the show, even though we have problems in our marriages, I did not want to show everybody marriages, the demise of the marriages at one time. I thought it was too much. I thought it was a lot. People have been having problems in their marriage long before the damn show. Be clear. That was a lot of the purpose of the show. So I just really, season 6 for me was too heavy and dark and got a little dark.
Now I'm gonna say this to you as a viewer and a fan of the show. I thought it was so
Real.
real. It was because the thing about it was this. The most beautiful moment in the history of that show, to me, was when all of y'all rallied to Simone and said, "Save this marriage." I
Yeah,
don't
they
care,
been
me and
married. They
you,
were married a long time. Yeah.
right? It wasn't about like me and you don't like each other.
It
When
was, yeah,
you see what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it was like, so to your point, all of y'all said, this marriage can be saved. What Dr. G and Quad is going through can't be saved, but we can save this because what y'all going through ain't that deep. And I saw all
yeah,
of you women rally for like to save that relationship. And to me, what you created, Mariah, is a show that really details what it's like to be a career woman who's married to a man that wants her at home more, but it also showed how women who are involved in the subculture of society, no matter what they go through, they can support each other. And that's what I miss about the show, honestly. And I said this publicly. I miss you and
yeah.
Quad. Y'all were Nene and Kim, Giselle and Robin. I missed that. I miss y'all friendship. Do you miss her as much as I miss y'all?
I think initially I probably did, but I think we just grew apart. I felt like I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like I remained the same. I think that TV and it just does something different to people. So I don't now, and that's not the same. I wish her well. Like I love Quiet. Like I loved us as a duo, as a friend, as a producer. I didn't think it made sense. They blew it all out of. It just became. I still was being careful about what I said. So initially I did, but eventually I just thought that she had became, evolved into something else, and they
Do
got
you
her.
think do you think the show has changed Quad?
I mean, y'all watch. What do you think? Yeah, what do you think?
When you see Quad now, is that the best friend that you met over 10 years
I
ago?
don't see her. We don't hang at the same place. We don't go. We don't do the same things. I mean, I don't really see her, to be honest with you. And that's no shade or anything. We don't. On the show, I thought like, wow. I just never. Because honestly, I really wanted us to do it. It was always supposed to be a duo. It was always meant to be a duo, and for us to watch each other's back. Because I knew it was a doggy dog business.
Are
Yeah.
you sad that when all of this was going on the show that these women who you gave a platform to that some of them did not have your back and support you?
No, no, no. Let me be honest. I was devastated initially. I was devastated. I'm not a victim. I feel like I'm victorious. I think that it was a part of my test to be a part of my testimony, though. God was doing something in my life. This was my vision. Nobody can take that away. It put them in a compromising position. Do I wish would I have done What they done? Absolutely not. I would have stood up for each and one. No, I can't be bought. So anybody knows me. No, I'm big on integrity. So yes, I expected at least one or two of them to maybe do something different. But at the end of the day, I'm not mad. I'm not bitter. I was initially, but so many other things happened in the world that I just couldn't even, I just really couldn't even give it my energy. I felt like what God has for me was for me. And I think He wanted me to just rely on Him and have faith in Him. I really do. I think it was more about my story than them. I do. And that's
You know
no
what is so
shade.
interesting?
I
I
do.
I am watching right before my eyes a woman who has grown into
Hmm.
who she's meant to be. It's sort of like the emancipation of Mimi. Your name is
Oh
Mariah, so you get the
yes,
connection.
I know it. Honey.
You
I
know,
know it all
I
too well.
feel
Hmm.
because I'm gonna be real with you. I appreciate your honesty in terms of you recognizing that I was a woman who may have been bitter or devastated or hurt.
I
And
was.
sometimes when we're like that, hurt people hurt others. And I do feel like who you are right now is you've done the work to let that chapter of your life go. And I don't know if I could have been as strong as you because I create shows for a
No,
living.
you do.
And I would be sad if something happened to where I'm not on a show I created. But I see this strength in you that impresses me because you seem to just be in a very different space. And my question to you is, where did that come from? Did it come from after the 2 years ago when your contract was over with and you were in a dark place? Like, how did you get yourself out of that?
Let me tell you, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It was life. I thought it was initially. I thought like you, like how could this happen? I can't believe this. I did everything right. I thought I did. Like, not that I was perfect because I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I thought from a professional standpoint, I had covered my tracks. But what happened to me was life. I like I got sick after that. Um, I saw the world falling apart. I seen black men, our sons, my husband, people that looked like my father dying right in front of my eyes. Like I just saw that it was so much more bigger even than Married to Medicine. And I knew that everything had happened was meant to happen. I didn't like the way it happened. I was torn. And to be honest, for me, the true testament of my strength was not what I said, but what I did not say. Because I could have said a lot. I wasn't gagged or anything like that. I chose, strength and silence and, and I just chose to trust God in it. So it's not that I was, oh, happy, go jolly. It broke me down all the way down. I mean, it did physically. I lost like 20. It was a lot. It was a lot. I had health issues after. It really broke me down. It was a lot. So so just being honest, like what you see today, what it was just strength, and I think just honestly growth and that evolution. It just really truly was. I know I just have so much more. I know it's so much more in store. It was just a stepping stone.
I listen.
It really
I
was.
no, and I can
It,
tell. I can tell by
it
your
really
spirit
was.
because one thing I know. Listen, I work with a lot of former reality stars who have their own story, and I'm not here to debunk anyone's story. I'll always tell people, I don't walk in your shoes. So because I may have been around you, I don't know your experience. Just because we know each other, I do not know what it feels like to be a reality star on a big show. I don't know what that feels like. Um, so when people used to say about you, like, "Oh my gosh, she's going to like file a lawsuit and all this stuff," it never materialized. Is that because you did you ever think about it, or did you just figure out I'm gonna do my thing the way it's supposed to and let God handle the rest?
Well, um, mm, I'll say this. I think um, Certain things didn't materialize because it didn't have to. It worked itself out. And I know God worked it out, but when they say they make your enemy your when they say make your enemy your footstool, they'll come to you and make it. And so things were tied up and worked out in a beautiful way because it kind of happened like that. And that was a blessing, but it was still hard or whatever. So I may not have physically filed a lawsuit, but that's not to say I wasn't on that track. Be very, very clear, and that's just being honest, because you do have to do certain things in order to garner the reaction you need, especially when you know you're in the right position. But it was tough, but everything's tied up, everything's good, and it's no bad blood. And it
No, go
really
ahead.
ain't. It really, it really isn't. And I felt like that even before the resolution. I felt a certain kind of way because I don't want to feel like I'm hijacked. Why? I had never sold the show, never received $1 from that standpoint. But so I knew, and then you seeing this on TV. Oh, I'm seeing it across the world, like as I was traveling internationally. So I knew that there was going to be some type of just do a resolution at some point, because you can, facts are facts. So I knew it would be some type of resolution. I didn't know it would take that long, but I knew it would.
Do you still keep in touch with any of the current cast members, Toya?
I haven't
Anybody?
talked to anybody at all. I just, mm-mm. And I was shocked about that. Initially, I would talk and reach out, but I think with a lot of things that were going on, to their defense, I think it was a situation where it's kind of like, don't talk, don't do, like this is going on. Like it was bigger, it may not have been lost, but it was still the legalities of everything. So I think that did complicate the relationships. That's still their job. And I was
Mm-hmm.
respectful. I don't want to put anybody in a situation. I didn't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, I wanted to say one more thing too. When you were saying earlier that, like you've seen the growth, and was it hard for me 2 years ago? I think one of the things that made it a little bit easier for me is what we said earlier. It was knowing my worth. And when I came into this business, my life was exactly kind of like it is now. Same car, same house. Like it really, truly was the same. So I knew what I was meant to do. I knew who I was. So my friendships didn't really change with any of those women. I was the same the entire time. Still is. So I'm still the same. Other people evolved, or I don't want to even say evolved, but other people changed. I didn't. I'm the same person, grown, but I'm the same. The stuff didn't, or the fame, or none of that changed me.
And I can attest to that too. No, you're the same woman I met. I mean, what, 2011 maybe? Like you're still a firecracker. You're still gorgeous as all get out.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Like I'm gonna be very honest when I say this, and I'm not gonna get emotional, but and I'm speaking for the reality fans, we
Mm-hmm.
do miss you on TV. Like
Oh,
we want you back on television. Would you ever return to reality TV, sis?
on an ensemble,
Would you?
depend. I'm gonna be. The break I had was amazing, and I needed it. I don't know. I would never say never, but I don't have the desire. I want to do something big. I don't mind doing unscripted, but the ensemble scares me because, and let me tell you why. Because people do anything on the way up and on the way down. And so when you're comfortable, you need to be just that. And I am very comfortable. So it scares me about what other people will do, with it. But I never say never, because who knows the next chapter.
Cause girl, we want to go and see you say, "I
Yes.
got the receipts now. I got
Ooh.
the receipts, baby."
Now imagine if
Yes.
I'd have pulled them, honey. See, I felt like I would have diminished my role as a producer. that's when it clashed. Like being a cat, like what do I do? Nobody will ever trust me again if I produce a show and I do X and I use such. I just felt like that was the first time the clash for me where I felt like I had to choose, and I want to be an old messy cast member that time.
So you had the receipts?
Like a girl that don't come with receipts? Are you kidding me? But I had to remember the purpose of the show was to keep families together, not to tear them apart. Okay? Ooh, a bitch is about to go ham. Take more strength is about what you don't say than what you say. So they can go back and look at all the footage. I don't even play like that at all.
I love you. Okay, so before we go, how is Aiden? How's the family? Because we love the Aiden. How is everybody?
Everybody's good. Everybody's really good. It's been a tough 2 years. The first time we weren't on TV, it's the pandemic. Aiden's the ER doctor. Our relationship, the whole reason I did the show was to show the sacrifice. Our relationship went through it, like just the struggle, the sacrifice, people dying every day. So Aiden's doing really well. We've come out the pandemic a little bit, and the kids are doing well. Lauren's graduating, going to college. Ethan has a co-pilot's license in the 10th grade. See, that's the shit you didn't see. So everybody's doing well. We're still, it's still a unit. We're still a great family here. So, we got a lot of layers, and that's what I'm looking forward to. The new chapter of Married to Medicine, the new young, fresh faces like Lauren Taylor's. Yes, that's why we do it. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to see the struggles and the strength. I want to see, medical school, all of that. So, and my baby's about to do that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I am too. And I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, because when I hit you up, you were on vacation, and Miss Mariah said, Carlos, I got you. Let me finish my vacation, but hit me up in a week. I did that, and the rest is history. I love you. I'm proud of you. You will always be cemented. And I'm going to end with this, and I really want you to hear me loud and clear. It's not every day a Black woman creates a franchise that has legs. And the fact that you did that, will be no Married to Medicine if it wasn't for you. And I need you to always know that.
Whatever we do together is going to be even bigger. So just know that. I'm speaking it into existence. They ain't ready for it, baby.
Carlos King and Mariah Huq, baby. Watch out.
Let's do it. Push through.
Libras.
I love you. I love you so much. And I really appreciate you and your team. I really do. And I wouldn't have done this with anybody. I wouldn't have done this with anybody but you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Oh,
thank you.
Yes. Yes. Y'all good?
Love y'all. Yeah.
That was good. Oh.